If you are new to YouTube and you're a new channel and a new creator, well, welcome. You're hanging out with Popsie Guy today, and I too am a new channel, a new creator. It's kind of cool being thought of as a creator. But there are three things that I wanted to chat with you today that have helped me, and these are three things that you want to avoid, three mistakes to avoid as a new YouTube channel. Again, walking along the beach, absolutely wonderful here. I'm in Northwest Florida, the Panhandle in Pensacola. My favorite place, Johnson Beach. And in a few months, it'll be a lot busier than you see right now. Not many people on the beach, but that's okay. It is February. So let's get right into it. I love YouTube, and the reason I love YouTube is that it is a place to go to get answers. Now, it wasn't that long ago, Google, which owns YouTube, was the only place to go to get answers, right? You'd type in your question and up popped the text of the answers. And if you noticed over the years, the first few, or the first dozen anyway, are suggested and they are sponsored. So I learned over the years to avoid the sponsored answers because they were usually trying to sell me something. But what I love about the YouTube platform is you can get answers from people that have actually done what you're looking to do. Very much like I'm talking to you right now, although I'm a new creator, these are things that I had thought about as I'm laying in bed, thinking about what I'd like to talk to you about. And then all of a sudden I'm on YouTube and other YouTubers are saying, these are the things you need to avoid. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I already thought of that. So let's jump right into it. The first one, you've probably heard before, but it's very true, is try to avoid the temptation to tell your family and friends that you have a new YouTube channel. I know that sounds kind of weird in the age of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, where everybody wants to be a social media influencer, but telling people who are not primarily the people you want to reach that you've got a YouTube channel, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to help. It's algorithm driven. What does that mean? It means that the computer, the AI, the algorithm, the software, the science behind it is a lot smarter than you and I. And it is continually working behind the scenes to match up your content with people that would find it interesting. So if you're over 60 like I am, and you go around telling all your friends and family that you've got a YouTube channel, you know, you tell your kids who are in their 30s, they're like, yeah, whoopee. So if they decide to get on your channel and take a look at it, it's going to mess up the algorithm. It really is. The algorithm's not going to know because it's being fed by people that don't fit the audience that you're trying to create. It's something that's kind of weird. And as I said, I thought of it when I was, pondering creating this channel. First of all, I don't want to tell anybody I have a channel. I mentioned in another video, I don't even like looking at myself on the camera. You know, when Zoom meetings were all the rage, I've shared this with you before. My favorite feature was hide yourself, right? Hide self-view, I think is what it was called. And I'd love that because I didn't like looking at myself, number one. Number two, everybody was better looking than me, so... Anyway, so do yourself a favor, resist the temptation to tell people that are probably not part of the audience that you want to reach that you've got a YouTube channel for the number one reason. It'll mess up the algorithm. Let YouTube do its thing, its magic in the background, which is to find you an audience that you can speak to with your experience. And the other thing too is, if you're anything like me, you just don't want people to know until they find it. They go, hey, how come you didn't tell me you had a YouTube channel? I forgot. Anyway, so that's number one. Avoid the temptation. Number two, and this one speaks to me again, laying in bed thinking about what do I want my channel to do. I am not a real high-tech guy. I can get my way around technology pretty easily. But it leads me into don't overly produce your video. What does that mean? It means Well, just from my own personal experience. There are videos that look like high quality cinematic adventures with scenes cutting in and out and fading and graphics and all of the things that, quite frankly, distract me. Even if it's great content, if the creator keeps moving in and out of scenes or putting up graphics, my mind is really focused on what the person is saying. Yeah, and sometimes it's great to throw up a graphic to reinforce that. What I've seen is so many videos that are so highly edited and polished that I'm like, it just doesn't seem authentic to me. And a study recently done by YouTube is, I think the study was called "Why Do We Watch YouTube?" or something of that nature. And 97% of the people that responded said, because I like the authenticity of the creator. In other words, that person is like me, and I can believe them. And so even if the person is like me, and I believe them, if the video is so highly produced that I'm being distracted, it kind of loses it. I can't, you know what? I don't have attention deficit disorder, but I can tell you, you might be just like me. If you're looking to click on a video, let's say the thumbnail is pretty catchy, the title is something you think you'd be interested in, and all of a sudden you see it's 22 or 23 minutes. I know this sounds kind of sad, but 23 minutes is a lot of time to invest. And then if you get into it, you're into it for maybe 30 or 40 seconds, and you feel like, wow, this person worked way too hard to capture my attention. I don't even know what they're saying. I click off and go to the next one. You know, it's probably what you've already done. Then again, if you already did that, you wouldn't be here. So avoid the temptation to be overly produced in your video, where editing becomes the main concern. And you also know a lot of people on YouTube who are giving advice to new YouTubers say that's one of the biggest drawbacks to getting started. People want perfection. Well, the creator wants it to be perfect. And they'll spend 2, 3, 4 times the amount of time in the editing process as they do in the content process, which is backwards. So that's the first 2. Avoid telling family and friends. And 2 is, don't get focused on overproducing your video. I said in one of my very first videos, I think this is probably number 14. I don't even know. I should know, but I'm just pumping them out because that's the other thing is stay consistent. I'm a one-take wonder, which means I'd rather just walk on the beach, talk to you as if you're standing right next to me, and we're having a conversation, and I'm able to share some of the things that are bouncing around in my mind with you. And you say, oh, hadn't thought of that. As opposed to going back, loading it on the computer, grabbing the editing software, which I don't even have, and trying to splice it together. One of the things that I find very distracting, I'm not sure if it's the same for you, is that when people edit and the clips jump, right? They're talking, then all of a sudden you can tell it was an edit or a splice, whatever the term might be. That is distracting to me. It's almost like, hey, what were you going to say that you didn't say that you cut out there? I don't mind seeing people screw up, right? A lot of ums and ahs, yeah, that could be a little bit distracting. But if something happens in the course of recording a video and it makes it look like, hey, they do this just like I do, I'm okay with that. You might be completely different. I might be talking to you, and you may be like, no, I need to watch highly edited, highly polished things because that's the only thing that keeps my attention. Well, that advice is not for you then. So let's move on to number 3, which is really the one that I have not heard one creator on YouTube talk about yet. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody hasn't done it and I'm some type of savant or genius that came up with this. Quite the opposite. I think there's 114 million active YouTube channels. So I'm pretty sure I missed one of them that talked about this. But you are now a business owner. If the goal is to get monetized, which in most cases it is. I'm not saying that is for you, but you know what? There's an opportunity if your content is strong and you keep at it. Consistency is the key. You're reaching a niche that you're like and they like you. When I say you're like, they see you and you're transparent and they feel comfortable with you. Then the chances are good that you're going to hit one video that's going to be like what we call a viral video. A viral video doesn't mean 10 million people watched it. It just means that in relation to all your other videos, it was the one that got the most hits. And if you know anything about the YouTube monetization policy, which I'm not even close to yet, but striving to get to, it's 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, of which I think I'm in the mid-40s in subscribers and probably about the same in watch time. So I got a ways to go. But here's why I tell you all that. If you do get monetized, now you're a business owner. Now you're going to get what's called a 1099 from YouTube. And if you've never owned a business before and you've always been employed and got a W-2, this is a different world that you need to pay attention to because it can sink you without you even knowing it. Some of you already know where I'm going with this, but because you are self-employed, guess who's on the hook for the taxes? You. And doesn't matter how old you are, you've got to report your income on the 1099 non-employee compensation form to the IRS, and if you live in a state that taxes income to the state, and that's going to be considered your gross wages. But also something you have to understand, that's just income tax. There's a whole other component that sinks a lot of people because they don't think about it, because their employer always took care of it as a W-2, which is self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is a combination of, it's called payroll taxes, Medicare, Social Security, OASDI, I think it's called, Old Age and Survivors Disability Income. You pay into that. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you're self-employed, you need to continue to pay into that. And that's 15.3% of your gross revenue. So did you hear what I just said? If you are earning money on YouTube and you've never been self-employed before, you need to put money aside, because if you're going to earn money on YouTube and you think you're going to owe more than $1,000 over the course of a year in employment taxes, self-employment taxes, you're going to file quarterly, which means that you have to send the state taxing authorities money every 3 months, and it's a guesstimate on how much money you made or how much money you're projected to make at the end of the tax year. And this is not tax advice, please understand, even though I've got a little bit of experience in this field, you've got to sit down with a qualified tax advisor, because the first thing the tax advisor, if they're worth their weight, will say, well, how about your expenses? One thing about being on YouTube, unless you hire people, unless you have a fancy office full of equipment, unless you're spending a lot of money producing the videos, you don't have a lot of expenses. But you've got to keep track of all of them, because that can be a deduction against the revenue, which reduces your tax liability, which reduces your payroll tax liability. So I hope I scared you sufficiently enough to know that, hey, congratulations, you're a YouTube creator. If you've never owned a business before, congratulations. You're now a business owner, whether you like it or not, and you're going to be responsible for your own withholdings. It's not even withholdings, for your own tax bill. Nobody's going to do it for you. At the end of the year, when you get that 1099 and you haven't paid into the IRS or the Treasury Department or your state, you're going to get a letter. They're going to say, hey, not only did you not pay us, so you owe us that money, you will pay us late filing fees, not filing fees, but payment, non-reporting, and you're going to have interest and penalties. And you think that the current administration is trying to get rid of certain functions of the U.S. government? I can't see the Internal Revenue Service being abolished. It's just, I don't see that happening. Even if it does happen, you think you're going to get all this income tax-free? I don't think so. I think it sounds good. I think most people would wish it would be that way. But let's plan that it's not going to be that way. Pay the tax on the money that you earn from YouTube on time and estimate it. Because at the end of the year, all your income tax form is going to do, you're filing your 1040, it's going to be a reconciliation. How much did you owe? How much did you pay? Did you overpay? We're going to send you money back. Did you underpay? You're not only going to owe us the money that you didn't pay us, you're going to owe us money on interest, penalties, underpayment. Oh my gosh. So please do yourself a favor. I know I've beat this one into the ground, but this third one is the most important one. If you're going to get monetized and you're going to make money, and I hope you do, make sure you're keeping track of the revenue that you receive, the expenses that you incur to do this business, but you're not just paying whatever your estimated marginal income tax rate is. You've got to pay your self-employment taxes. That's important, because if you don't do that, you're going to find yourself in deep trouble. And you're going to have to produce more videos to earn more revenue, to pay off the tax, and you become a hamster on a wheel. And I don't want you to do that. I'll tell you something, and I told you yesterday in a video that you're going to learn things about me. Not a lot of people know. That happened to me. When I first started a business years ago, I just thought, okay, I'll fess up with them at the end of the year. I should have known better. But when you're starting a business from scratch, cash flow is king. And you say, well, you know what? This quarter, I need the money to pay all these other bills. I'll double up next quarter, and me and Uncle Sam will be square. Doesn't work that way. So just avoid that pain, but keep creating. Be yourself. Don't worry about your friends and family. That's not a big deal. Don't overproduce the video, because I ain't going to watch it. If you're doing ins and outs and all this stuff that my mind is not even sure what you're talking about, I'm going to the next one. And I don't want to do that, because I'm sure you have something really important to say, and I want to hear it. So I hope those tips helped. I know that was a lot. I hope you're okay with me being on the beach in the middle of February. You might be in Ontario, Canada. You might be up in the Northeast expecting all the snow that they're going to get over the next couple of days. You might be on the West Coast watching this atmospheric river drench you. But here I am on the beach in February, because God has blessed me with the ability to do that. I'll tell you my story of how I got here, what I do every day. I don't just walk the beach talking to you. It just looks that way. But I really have this blessed life, my wife and I do, and I want to share some things with you before he calls me home. And who knows what that could be. A shark could jump out of the water right now, and that would be the end of it. I don't see any. That doesn't mean he's not out there. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with Popsie Guy, and we'll see you on the next one.